Hi guys, it's Mrs. Vance again, and I thought we'd go over a few things just to review for the test, which will be on Friday, January the 15th, and we'll just talk about what's on the test. So there are 40 multiple choice questions on the test. 9 of the questions are review questions over DNA, RNA, protein synthesis, cell cycle, mutations, that kind of stuff. Fits very well with what we're talking about in this unit as well. There's also a 6-point bonus question that is identifying events in the phases of meiosis. You have pictures showing different phases, and you have to identify whether it's prophase 1 or metaphase 2 or whatever. And so if you want to review for that, you can look at pictures online or in the notes or in your book, various places to see what are the different ways that those could be represented by diagrams. But otherwise, just take your best guess, and you can definitely get partial credit on it if you don't get the whole thing. So the main topic we've been talking about is meiosis, and of course the purpose for meiosis is the reduction of diploid cells to haploid in order to produce sex cells or gametes that have half the number of chromosomes. This will help us when the gametes combine together in fertilization, will help us produce a zygote that has the correct chromosome number for our species. In this whole process, kind of as an overview, there's one replication of the DNA, which occurs in the S phase of the interphase that precedes this, and then that's followed by 2 separate division events. Meiosis 1 is going to be separating the homologous chromosomes from each other. Remember, the duplicated chromosomes line up in a tetrad together, and at meiosis 1, they separate the homologous chromosomes from each other while the chromatids stay attached to each other, and then in meiosis 2 you're separating the chromatids from each other, and this produces 4 haploid daughter cells that have half the number of chromosomes of the original parent cell. In crossing over, remember that you've got the homologous chromosomes exchanging portions of their chromatids. This occurs in prophase 1. It always happens in meiosis, every single time, oftentimes multiple times to the same homologous chromosomes. The duplicated homologous chromosomes line up, forming a tetrad. It's called a tetrad. Tetra means 4 because there are 4 chromatids that all have the same genes on them. And so while in the tetrad, then portions of the chromatids basically trade places, and that mixes up the genes from the maternal and paternal chromosomes so that you get different combinations of the genes, of the alleles and the genes that are provided by the parents. The final results of meiosis are that you have 1 replication of the DNA. There are 2 divisions, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, producing 4 haploid daughter cells. The daughter cells are genetically unique because of crossing over and because of the independent assortment of chromosomes. It's very convenient for us to compare mitosis and meiosis, and so this chart is a nice chart that's in your book that compares what happens in each of the 2 types of cell division and have it compared to each other. So DNA replication, again, is very similar for both processes. It just depends on what cells they're happening in, because remember, meiosis only occurs in the sex organs, in the ovaries and testes, in order to make gametes. And so comparing what happens in mitosis to what happens in meiosis and vice versa. Remember that synapsis does not occur in mitosis, but does occur in prophase 1 of meiosis, and that's forming the tetrad where the crossing over occurs. Mitosis produces only 2 diploid daughter cells that are genetically identical to the parent cell, whereas meiosis produces 4 haploid cells that are genetically different from the parent cell and from each other. And the whole purpose of mitosis, of course, is for growth and development. And meiosis is for sexual reproduction. It allows us to have the correct number of gametes in our offspring. Here's another diagram that's looking at pictures, comparing mitosis and meiosis, so you can see the similarities and differences, okay? And it's really important to be able to understand the differences. The names of the phases, remember, the same, and the same basic things happen. It's just what gets separated when is the difference between mitosis and meiosis. There are sometimes mistakes that happen in meiosis, and the main one that we talked about is non-disjunction. this is a failure of homologous chromosomes to separate properly. It can happen in either meiosis 1 or meiosis 2. But what it's going to do is produce gametes that have either too many or too few chromosomes. If those faulty gametes are fertilized and an offspring results, it will lead to a genetic disorder of some kind, a trisomy or a monosomy. And you saw some examples of that in the non-disjunction worksheet that you did in class on Tuesday. And so that's the main thing that we talked about in this unit. We talked about the structure of the chromosomes, of course, just as a review, basically, because we had talked about that some before, and how meiosis works, and what it does, and about non-disjunction and other kinds of errors like that. So this is the last of the review. In the Unit 9 resources folder that is in the Schoology weekly folder, there are lots of things in there that can help you. There is a Meiosis Jeopardy game if you want to play that. It's a PowerPoint Jeopardy, but you can play that definitely. There's also a Quizlet. You can do Quizlet or Quizlet Live or any of the things that you do with Quizlet. There is a review quiz on Schoology that you can take up to 20 times just for practice. Remember that the review quiz will not be counted as a grade, but you can take it multiple times, and you can find things that you need to review, highlight things that you need to review, and so forth. And so any or all those things are things that you can use. Go back and look at the notes videos if you need to do that. I'll make sure that there are plenty of other videos. There's an Amoeba Sisters video, and there's several other videos about meiosis. Just, it's nice to be able to see it presented in slightly different ways. It helps you remember what's going on there. So that's the review for the test. If you have any questions, then be sure and shoot me a message on Schoology. I'll do my best to answer you as quickly as I can, and the test will be on Friday, January the 15th. See you later.